Welcome to CoinBook. My name is Calvin Waite, and I'm a professional crypto trader. I really like getting feedback from you guys about the market, what you're trading, successes, failures, so I'm going to go ahead and start giving out a t-shirt every week now. What I'll do is I'll look at all comments from Thursday to Thursday, and then Friday select a random winner. For today's Bitcoin update, I kind of wanted to talk about some of the targets that we have hit. So just a few days ago, we talked about hitting this target of 23,000, and we have cooled off a little bit, but nothing, like there is no fear in this candle. And even though there's a longer stem right here, closing in the upper half is still bullish. So these candles show a lot of strength, even though we're hesitating here at 23,000. A while ago, I had talked about on the macro scale that we had an inverse head and shoulders right here. And the target of that was 20,000. It was our all-time high. So this pattern is resolved, and our when we came out of this head and shoulders and we confirmed it as support here, confirmed the neckline as support, this was just a beautiful setup and pretty incredible that we hit this support. Now, the question you might have is, where are we headed next? And right now we are just we are being cautious because we've had 2 days of 10% gains. And this type of activity needs a break. So we're going to either need to consolidate. If we come back down really fast and hit this support, it won't be as good as hanging out for a couple of days to weeks and then touching it as support. If we, depending on how we interact with our 20,000 line here, or our 19.7 line, it will definitely dictate what happens in Bitcoin for the next 3 or 4 months for sure. Because if we hit it quickly and slice through it, we could get upside down really fast. If we end up holding this as support, we might be heading off into blue sky land again. And so we're really going to be watching this. The more days we can get above it, though, the stronger the case will be for a continuation. We've kind of gotten back in line. We're hugging our exponential line again. So this is quite amazing, but Bitcoin is looking just as strong as ever. So our altcoin market has definitely left our channel. And today we're having a tiny bit of a green day, not too much, but what's interesting is there's a question that people have asked me: what are we going to do when Bitcoin does this, or how are alts going to react if Bitcoin goes up, or how are alts going to react when Bitcoin goes down? Well, all we have in our recent history, as far as our research on how alts behave against Bitcoin, is that whenever Bitcoin consolidates, it gives alts a chance to chill out a bit. When Bitcoin is volatile, either up or down, it feels like alts will either, if they're going up, they will start consolidating, and if they're consolidating, they'll start going down. And the opposite is true when we go from Bitcoin moving to Bitcoin consolidating. So when Bitcoin finally consolidates, alts that are going down will start consolidating, and alts that were already consolidating start to move up. And because of this behavior, even though our Bitcoin dominance has only dropped by 0.1%, and our microcaps have only gone up by 0.08%, there are coins that have absolutely launched today that had been sort of consolidating. So the first chance that some of these get to go, once Bitcoin starts consolidating, the alts are ready to launch. So the question is can Bitcoin consolidate long enough for the ones that are dropping and start consolidating to exit that consolidation and start turning up. That's really where our alt season will come from now. So this is how whales make market tops. They get everyone distracted and looking up, and suddenly, bam. So today I kind of wanted to ask a little bit more in depth on the fundamentals in Bitcoin, and I think they might be changing a little bit. Back when Bitcoin was younger, it was traded by people who were more emotional and less financially savvy in the trading world. And the swings and the emotions were crazy. Things started getting more stable back in 2016 and 2017 when Wall Street sort of entered the scene. You could tell that there were some more sophisticated investors. They were very good as far as pushing price around and getting people excited and then scaring people. And that's kind of how Bitcoin has traded and reacted all the way up until the last few months. And just as a trader, we don't want to get too hooked up on one specific idea. We need to have an open mind and be able to reevaluate when the market starts to change on us. So all of you know that we're seeing on the news all the time companies that are adding hundreds of millions of dollars to their balance sheet. And this type of buying is remarkable. And it's going to have an impact on the price, and it can change the way Bitcoin is traded. So I kind of wanted to have an open mind and kind of have an open discussion on this today. The other thing to think about is that Bitcoin has a limited supply. So if you go to bitcoinblockhalf.com, it gives you the countdown of when Bitcoin's going to do its next halving, but it also has a lot of statistics down here. And you can see here that the Bitcoin generated per day is 900. We will get 900 new Bitcoin per day all the way until the next halving. And this number is hard fixed, it cannot change. And the question is how much, if we have a person that's buying, or a company that's buying $100 million worth of Bitcoin, and these reports are starting to come out at least weekly now, what impact will that have on the price of Bitcoin? Right now, at the current prices, 900 per day represents $20 million of Bitcoin that is showing up in the world every single day. And if somebody buys $100 million worth of Bitcoin, they are scooping up 5 days worth of supply. So if the occurrences of these $100 million purchases happens more than every 5 days, then we have a supply-demand problem. And what's different about our new buyers is that the buyers are not hedge funds that are interested in manipulating the price of Bitcoin and pushing it up and down. These new buyers are using it as a long-term hedge against inflation. So M1 money stock are funds readily accessible for spending. This consists of currency outside the U.S. Treasury, Federal Reserve banks, and vaults of depository institutions. It's also traveler's checks, demand deposits, other checkable deposits, OCDs, which are withdrawal now accounts, this and that. So it's anything that can be used fairly readily accessible. And if you look at this chart, you can see that we've been sort of stable. In 2010, we definitely changed angles, but in 2020, we have absolutely gone vertical on the amount of M1 money supply that we have. It is this change here that is motivating, and let me zoom in a little bit. So this is our 1 year, we'll do 5 year just so you can see it. Over the past 4 years, we've done this. After our last 1 year, we're doing this. And now that we are at $6.5 trillion worth of M1 money supply, when we started the year off at less than 4 trillion, we have increased. We're almost 50% of, yeah, we're more than 50% increase from where we were, which is a just gigantic number. This is what is motivating a lot of large companies to start looking at stable places to put their cash. And with Bitcoin having a very finite supply and only 900 being produced per day, this is going to have an impact on the price of Bitcoin. Well, now let's go back and look at the chart, because things have changed. I'm at the 15-minute chart, and what I'm looking for is any time historically when we get up to a really nice high, a whale will come in and start dumping very fast. It'll create a spike down like this, and it's intended to not only scare the market but weaken the trend. And this can set off a lot of stop losses and start pushing a lot of money into the downside. So our first one happened at 15,000. Once we hit 15,000, we had a huge spike down, and we had a short-term move down, but then we recovered. And the recovery is what is interesting to me. So even though we had a nice consolidation, we had another attempt at a pullback here. But when we hit our bottom, we recovered all the way up to the top. This was back at 15,500. And then we had some manipulation with some wild spikes and spike down, but nothing is phasing the investors. We hit a high of 16,500. Nothing notable. I mean, this looks pretty like normal activity. This right here is our first major whale move. When we hit 18,500, this spike down was gigantic. This is the type of move that says the market has topped and we're going to go down. We had all kinds of stop losses hit, but amazingly, even though we attempted it twice, we did not sell off. In fact, we ended up consolidating and we began hitting higher highs. And there are these spikes down that have happened, and this one was a little bit more organic, but every time we've gone down, it's been bought back up. And these types of things are unusual for Bitcoin. Here we are back in, so we hit the 19.5 area, and this was a little bit more organic, but we had some large candles heading down. And these are the types of things that whales love to get behind, or at least our most recent historical version of whales. This is the manipulation that we usually see. But even then, after these large drops, we stabilized fairly quickly over the course of 24 hours, and then we just started on our slow ascent upwards. This is a huge whale move. This is another huge whale move. And even though it did, change our trend and move our direction, nobody lost their fundamental belief in the bull side of the equation. And we popped up out of this red zone, and we've consolidated. And there was a lot of question. I was definitely, this was a tough place to figure out where we were headed. A couple more attempts. So you can see all these attempts. There's no whale move up. A whale move is something that happens suddenly, a one-directional move that's very sudden. This is a whale move. This is definitely in there. Then you have all these spikes down, but no like sudden random spike up. So all the whale moves that we've seen are these drops that are coming down. And we attempted these large drops quite a few times, but over the course of these months, we have climbed back up, found consolidation, and we've just marched upwards. And so something fundamental is changing in Bitcoin. That doesn't mean that we're not going to have natural moves, but I think a lot of our giant whale moves are starting to get tempered down a bit, because if we have a limited supply and we have long-term bigger whales coming in and scooping up Bitcoin for very valid reasons, because of this M1 money supply printing and inflation, it's giving Bitcoin the more strength than I have ever seen it in my 8 years of trading Bitcoin. We will definitely have our ups and downs, but if you just do the math, on December 5th, this article that came out, Grayscale buys almost $140 million of Bitcoin in 24 hours. And if you go down here, they bought 7,200 Bitcoin in one day. The amount of Bitcoin that just Grayscale has been buying, they're saying that in 1 month, in our most recent month, that'd be November, they added 64,832 Bitcoin to their funds. So they're buying 64,000 Bitcoin. So if you take 64,832 and divide it by 900 per day, they bought 72 days worth of Bitcoin in a 30-day period. So if there are other companies that are buying many Bitcoin, and I kind of think we're sort of at the starting point, because as more large companies go public about the buying that they're doing, the more confidence other treasuries have in buying for their companies. But let's just conservatively say that let's just say that if you combine everybody else, we're going to double this, okay? So let's just say that every month we're buying 144 days worth of Bitcoin. We divide that by 30. That tells us that Bitcoin is undervalued by 4.8 times. So this puts us near $100,000 Bitcoin. So we're going to want to be trading Bitcoin pretty cautiously. I think that this is a territory where we're going to want to be watching for dips, and this is going to be a buy the dip situation. So I have been just watching this market over the years, and it is acting differently than it has in the past. We still need support structure, and we need the structure that we have. But if Bitcoin starts getting traded by large companies, it might start acting a little bit more like stocks, and stocks trade a little differently. I wanted to show you Amazon as an example. So if I take Amazon, and we'll go daily, and we're going to zoom way out. I kind of was looking for how a company has behaved over the decades that we know is doing well. So our Bitcoin is sort of our Amazon long term, but we have all of these moves, and here's a high, and we confirmed a handoff here, but here's a high here that we never confirmed a handoff, and so we dipped down, but we didn't ever close this gap. And then we had this high here, and I mean, this might be considered a confirmation of this move, but certainly there are times in this kind of wild bull market where the price doesn't get the confirmation that you would expect. So here's a really high move, and when it went down and it gapped up, we never touched it again. We never came back and gave it the support that it needs. Well, Bitcoin has always done this, because there have been very strong whale moves in the past, and the whales in Bitcoin love to push things around, and it allows these supports to happen much more frequently. But you can see here where we had a high, we came up and just consolidated instead, and then we launched up, and we never came back and gave the handoff between support and resistance. And this has happened quite a few times, because this high here, there was never a move back to confirm these highs as support. We just moved on. And when there are companies with billions of dollars that are moving into an asset, they don't care about the swing trades and the monthly ups and downs. They really are buying for the long term, and the result of that is that there is a different flavor in the market, that if Bitcoin starts behaving the way stocks are traded, we may not get those perfect handoffs like we had always gotten in the past. And just for how strange the activity on Bitcoin is, plus the amount of buying that's happening, and the amount of buying saying that really Bitcoin should be valued at 100,000 based on the supply and demand. If the amount of Bitcoin produced was equal to the value, the dollar value that is being purchased, the price of Bitcoin would be $100,000. Like, the math just makes sense. So we're going to have to start being very careful. We're going to want to take advantage of drops. If whales try to manipulate and push prices down, we're going to want to snap those up and take advantage of those as best we can. Thanks for hanging on to the end of the video there. I wanted to announce our winners. We have 2 t-shirts we're giving away, and it's to these 2 fine people. Edwin Leon is our first winner, and our second winner is The Awesome Life. You guys are awesome. I love the comments. I love responding to them. And thanks for everyone being patient with my channel. Now that it's monetized, I can actually afford to send out these shirts. Just kidding. I could afford it before. But hey, it is nice to not to have that little buffer there. I've got some other fun things in mind, so stay tuned for some very interesting creations that I'm about to release on the world. The winners, just contact me on Twitter, or get a hold of me through my website, and I'll get those sent out to you guys. Congratulations. Okay, it is time to separate the CoinBook trolls from the CoinBook fans. So, these are the magnificent t-shirts that we are giving away every Friday. These are individually packaged with love from your best friends, China. There's also this incredible option designed by yours truly, and we'll be giving away probably 1 or 2 of these every Friday to just a random comment on any of the videos over the past week. But, and I don't blame you, if you absolutely cannot live without one of these shirts, I am willing to part with them for $15 worth of your favorite crypto. Just reach out to me on social media and we'll get you guys hooked up.